The Pentagon just put 1,500 troops on standby for deployment to Minneapolis. Not a foreign war zone, not a natural disaster, an American city where federal agents are being hunted by organized networks of activists and where two top state officials may have orchestrated the largest welfare fraud scheme in U.S. history and who just got caught rigging elections for a decade. It's all starting to make sense now, and even the legacy media is now admitting that it's all coming crashing down. The entire Democrat Party apparatus is imploding. We've got the receipts. Wait till you see this. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Within 24 hours after Renee Good was shot and killed after she accelerated her vehicle towards an ICE agent, an encrypted signal chat fired up all across South Minneapolis. Hundreds of residents began coordinating in real time, checking license plates, setting up homemade checkpoints with blue recycling bins, following unmarked federal vehicles through neighborhoods. Parents armed themselves with whistles for school drop-off. They weren't just protesting, they were literally hunting. This is ICE Watch, a nationwide network that's trained over 10,000 Americans since Trump's inauguration, and tactics borrowed from the civil rights movement, except now they're using those tactics to obstruct federal law enforcement. They monitor, they follow, they alert entire neighborhoods when agents arrive, and according to federal officials, they're crossing the line from observation into criminal obstruction.
These are acts of insurrection against the laws of the United States and against the sovereignty of the United States. Foreign illegal aliens who broke into this country, who then raped children, who committed human trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, protected, shielded, sheltered, coddled, defended at every level by the leadership in Minnesota. And then when ICE goes out to make these arrests, they unleash violent mobs to attack, assault, and impede ICE officers. And they refuse to allow the city police to protect those ICE officers in the conduct of their duties, willfully aiding and abetting this violence.
But here's where this story gets truly explosive. Because the protests, the ICE raids, the federal crackdown, none of it is really about immigration enforcement. It's about what investigators discovered when they started following the money. On January 6th, the House Oversight Committee held a hearing that barely made national news but should have stopped the country cold. Minnesota state lawmakers testified under oath that Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison were personally warned about massive welfare fraud for years and did nothing. In fact, it's worse than nothing. They fired the whistleblowers. They retaliated against state employees who tried to sound the alarm. Minnesota State Representative Kristen Robbins testified that Walz knew about the fraud from the very beginning back in 2018 when he was running for governor and the prosecutions were already making headlines. Another state representative was even more direct. He charged that Walz not only absolutely knew about the fraud, he was indeed complicit in it. The numbers are staggering. Federal prosecutors estimate $9 billion stolen from Minnesota's social services system since 2018. Half of the $18 billion spent across 4 programs was stolen. Chairman James Comer revealed that 86% of the Somali population in Minnesota receives Medicaid, free health care, food stamps, housing, transportation, daycare. Over 80%. And then investigators found something even more disturbing. Audio evidence entered into evidence at trial of Attorney General Keith Ellison at a meeting with members of that very Somali community who were later convicted of fraud, promising to keep the money flowing to programs under investigation.
Of course I'm here to help. But let me be clear. I'm not here because I think it's going to help my re-election. Mm-hmm. No. I don't care about no re-election. Mm-hmm. I voluntarily threw my congressional career away. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore. It's boring to me. So to do this, to do what I'm doing now. So of course, I didn't leave that job to do nothing in this job. I mean, am I going to get more hits than I got by prosecuting a police officer and giving them life in prison? Right? So so let's just go fight these people.
2 weeks later, his campaign received contributions from those same groups at that same meeting. But all of this is nothing compared to the real fraud that was just uncovered, a fraud that affects all of us. According to an investigative report by John Solomon, we are now discovering that all of this was nothing less than a coordinated effort to artificially boost Democrat numbers in the House of Representatives. And here's how it worked. Back in 2020, the Democrats effectively reversed Trump's first-term census orders to ensure illegal immigrants were indeed counted in the census. Now, in fairness, they had a little help from the Supreme Court in that, but regardless, illegal migrants were counted in the 2020 census, which, of course, is good for a decade. And so what did the Democrats do? Well, in anticipation of the 2030 census, Democrats opened the southern border with over 11 million illegal migrants coming into the nation under Joe Biden. And then liberal nonprofits deliberately moved these illegal migrants from red border states to blue sanctuary cities like Minneapolis. They enrolled them in welfare programs. And then Democrat officials looked the other way when billions were stolen because those communities were now voting blocs contributing to Democrat campaigns. So as it turns out, it was all a scheme to artificially boost the numbers for Democrats in the House, recognizing that if they didn't import these foreign voters, the 2030 census and the electoral reapportionment would wipe out the Democrat Party. It would forever shut them out from ever achieving a congressional majority again. Now, I'm sure many of you know this, but with so many people, we're talking tens of millions leaving blue states for red states are poised to dominate Congress as well as the Electoral College for the next generation after 2030. The only way the Democrats figured that they could survive that electoral tsunami is by importing tens of millions of voters by way of an open southern border. And so as thousands of ICE agents storm Minneapolis, these Democrats are now realizing to their horror that that plan has completely collapsed. And we've got the numbers to prove it. Wait till you see this. Bombshell revelations are ripping the mask off deep state corruption. Venezuela's ex-intelligence chief just exposed Maduro's narco-terror empire tied to China, Iran, Russia, and Hezbollah, and named corrupt U.S. politicians and officials who allegedly took millions to keep the regime alive. Those same dishonest forces are also sabotaging our financial system right here at home, draining your retirement savings to fund their globalist agenda. President Trump is leading the fight back, building a strategic Bitcoin reserve and opening retirement accounts to crypto. Follow his lead, move your wealth into crypto assets like Block Trust IRA. Their Animus AI platform has outperformed Bitcoin by 250% since 2020, providing essential wealth defense against the deep state's thieving tentacles. Go to turleytalkscrypto.com right now and get a free $2,500 funding bonus when you open your account. That's turleytalkscrypto.com to secure your family's future today. According to analysis from NBC News, ICE has now arrested over 2,400 illegal aliens in Minnesota. Now, when you combine that with the previous arrest total before the federal agent surge last month, that's a total now of over 5,000 illegal aliens arrested in Minnesota in just the last several months. Now, given that the state has an estimated 100,000 illegals living there that have been basically bussed in, if we count the number that have voluntarily deported, we don't know the exact number, but it's about 4 times the amount who are arrested. That's the national average. 600,000 nationally have been arrested. 2 million have self-deported. But if we factor in the 4x average of those who voluntarily self-deported, we may, in fact, be seeing as many as 20% of Minnesota's illegal migrant population gone in Trump's first year in office. It's astonishing. Now, by those numbers, they'll virtually all be gone by the end of Trump's term. And according to a report by Ryan Gerdusky, this mass deportation is already on track to cost Minnesota at least one congressional seat. Minnesota held on to its 8th congressional district in 2020 by 89 people. 89. Do the math. These arrests and deportations alone could already have cost Minnesota a congressional seat in the 2030 census. An electoral college vote, federal funding, political power redistributed from the state that enabled fraud to states that enforce the law. This is why 1,500 troops are on standby. This is why Trump is threatening the Insurrection Act. This is why Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fryboy and Governor Tampon Tim are both under criminal investigation by the Department of Justice for obstruction of federal law enforcement. And this is why Minneapolis is currently being overrun by federal law enforcement made up of 4 times as many agents as the entire Minneapolis Police Department. The National Guard is being mobilized as we speak. Active duty soldiers trained in cold weather operations are being packed and ready in Alaska. And investigators are saying this pattern, the fraud, the sanctuary policies, the election manipulation isn't limited to Minnesota. They're opening probes in California, New York, Illinois. And now even the legacy media is admitting that these fraud scandals could have national implications for the Democrats. The Hill just published a piece that has Democratic strategists literally terrified because they're arguing that a blue state that hasn't voted for a Republican presidential candidate since Richard Nixon in 1972 is cracking. Tim Walz already withdrew from his gubernatorial race, leaving Democrats without a single candidate. Senator Tina Smith announced she's retiring, creating a second open Senate seat. The party that dominated Minnesota politics for half a century is now scrambling to fill its entire statewide ticket while under federal criminal investigation. But it gets worse. Minnesota is indeed politically shifting. It's voting to the right of New Jersey. It's voting to the right of Virginia. And it looks as if it's but the latest Democrat stronghold to collapse. If Minnesota flips, if a state that's been blue for 54 consecutive years goes red, the entire upper Midwest becomes Republican territory. The blue wall doesn't just crack, it collapses. And Democrats lose any realistic path to the White House for the next generation. This is why they're fighting so hard. This is why organized networks are hunting ICE agents through Minneapolis neighborhoods. It's got nothing to do with immigration per se. It has everything to do with the fact that this is their Waterloo. This is their last stand. If the Hill's analysis is right and Minnesota really is following Michigan and Wisconsin into swing state territory, then what we're watching isn't just an immigration crackdown or a fraud investigation. We're watching the total realignment of American politics in real time and the end of the Democrat Party as we know it. Hey, before you go, I want to make sure you know about this. We're hosting a live event on Monday, January 26th, called A Vision for Christian Art and Cultural Renewal. It's an evening exploring how Christian artists and beauty renew communities and why raising the next generation with faith, family, and freedom is essential to our cultural future. RSVP today and get a free copy of my book, Beauty Matters. Monday, January 26th, 7 p.m., Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Limited seats. Link below. See you there.